Yeah, okay, I'll review it. Okay, someone commented on whether or not I was going to review this movie, so yeah, fine, I'll review it. But I am not going to be wearing my typical Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt. No, you're just going to have to get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie shirt. By the by, let me just say, I'm going to review this movie because I'm a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Clearly. I'm reviewing this movie bearing in mind that I am not a fan of the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV show. But I'm not going to be a dinosaur dick about it, alright? I'm going to be fair to this film as a film itself. The reason why I'm reviewing this is because it has Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in it. I know enough about the TMNT to know about this movie enough to follow it. I'm fairly knowledgeable of the Ninja Turtles, and that's why I'm going to review this. Unlike, say, the Bob's Burgers movie. I saw it in theaters, but I don't watch the cartoon show religiously. Even though I made a thumbnail for that movie, I just didn't feel right giving it too much of a critique because I don't follow that cartoon as often. I've only seen a handful of episodes. With Rise of TMNT, far as the TV show is concerned, I've seen a bunch of episodes. I've seen the beginning episodes. I've even seen the final episode. I could not get into it. I could, of course, get into the 87 Ninja Turtles. I could get into the 2002 Ninja Turtles. And I could even get into the 2014 Ninja Turtles. And yes, I know there was the Ninja Turtles, The Next Mutation. I've seen all those episodes too, but that's its own thing. I'm just not a fan of Rise of the TMNT because I'm gonna make myself sound old here, but it follows that same format that I can't stand about today's cartoons. These damn whippersnapper cartoons. The 2010s cartoon era. You know, where there is no subtle pacing. Like, at least with the Turtles animated series, there was pacing. Yeah, they had some crazy, silly moments, but they had real serious pacing moments as well. My problem with the Rise series is that it's really loud. Everyone's loud. Everyone's obnoxious. Even Splinter is obnoxious. Everyone just shouts their lines. All four Ninja Turtles act the same. I mean, Raphael is a bit of a hard ass like he usually is, but they're pretty much all the same characters. They all act like what Michelangelo should be acting like. Typically, from the comic books to most iterations, the Turtles have been consistent with their behavior. So, Leonardo's the strong leader. Raphael is kind of like he's a smart ass, he's a hard ass, but he has a heart of gold. Donatello is the genius with technology, and Michelangelo is the party dude. But in this cartoon, they all act like Michelangelo. They all have to jump around and be silly and scream their lines. For that, you can thank Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and the Disney Channel. Because at some point, we just got kid shows to have characters being loud about their dialogue, scream their dialogue, be overly expressive with their arms like it's kabuki theater. Splinter is terrible in this. He is kind of like he's a sloth. He pretty much is. He just basically badmouths his kids and he sits in his chair and watches TV shows all day. Yeah, he helps out and he fights, but otherwise, it's kind of a piece of shit. April O'Neil. I don't mind her design. I do have a problem with each iteration trying to make April O'Neil younger. I don't know. I think April O'Neil is appropriate in like her young 20s. I just don't think she should be the Ninja Turtles age. She should be like more of the experienced New Yorker. But they have April O'Neil in this movie and cartoon series acting just like the Ninja Turtles, screaming her lines. And yeah, that's going to be my big complaint is just how they behave. Otherwise, when it comes to the film, the animation otherwise it's very nice. It has the higher budget for a better animation. It does move a little bit smoother. There's great shading, and the thing is, I didn't really care for the movie too much, honestly, just to say it up front. But really, if it wasn't for the Ninja Turtles and how they are represented in this, the film is actually good. It has the classic Days of Future Past story, where someone from the future has to go back in time to prevent something. But in this case, they decide that the person going back in time to prevent a disaster would be a young Casey Jones. I didn't watch too much of the Rise cartoon series, so maybe I missed something in between. But yeah, this Casey Jones is from the future, and he has to go back in time to stop a Krang invasion. So this takes place post-series. Shredder has been defeated. Now their main enemy is Krang. It's alright, so the idea of Krang has changed over the years, so he's basically from the Utrom race, but instead of calling it Utrom, it's the Krang race. But there's only 3 of them. There's Krang Prime, and he has a sister who is a general, and a brother that doesn't speak. Also, I hate the idea that the Ninja Turtles have mystic powers. I'm not going to get into the spoilers yet. I'm going to speak as a normal, quick briefing of this. The plot is great. I do like the idea of sending Casey Jones, even though I don't think it should have been Casey Jones. Fine, that's how they're going to incorporate Casey Jones. They bring him back in time so they can stop the Krang invasion, because Krang is set free by the foot. And I have to say, this movie, along with the great animation, is actually pretty brutal. It's kind of the classic Bruce Timm Batman animated series, Justice League animated series type of deaths where, I mean, it's not shown that anyone dies, but it's implied. And when Krang does his thing to hurt people, kind of leaves me a little speechless on this. And I don't want to get too much into that because I'll save that for the spoiler. But again, yeah, the animation was great. It could have been a great film if the Ninja Turtles were properly respected. But no, they all act the same. The design of the Ninja Turtles bugs the hell out of me too. They seem less of turtles and more of frogs. They're drawn like they're frogs. Like, we already have the Frog Brothers from the Ninja Turtles, and might as well just use them. And also with the design of the turtles, I don't know what it is with these iterations that try to make the turtles too individualized. You know, giving them like certain scars or certain builds, like Raphael is huge, which, by the way, screw you TV show for making Raphael the leader. And yeah, I know in the original Ninja Turtles movie, in the closing credits Turtle Power theme song, they actually say Raphael's the leader because that was a mistake. But this cartoon just kind of went with it. Because in this movie, Raphael's the Leonardo type. He wants everyone to be training, where Leonardo is the one that's always butting heads with him, saying, "Why train? We know what to do." And Leonardo is voiced by Ben Schwartz. I've reviewed him he's been in Sonic. He's actually also been in the Super Pets movie. His voice has just been everywhere this year. But yeah, I just don't like that they have their individual looks, you know, Donatello with his goggles and everything. I just think, I don't know, I mean, this is just a personal preference, so I'm not going to mark them down too much for this. It's just that I just remember in the original comic books that their whole point was to be similar, except for the only thing to differentiate them is their weapons. And even when they're not holding their weapons, we knew who they were because they're distinct personalities, which is stripped away from this cartoon. So yeah, you know, like in the original comics, they were black and white. In this, I would say, imagine if you didn't have the gear that they wear and just the cartoon was in black and white and you can only hear what they're saying. You wouldn't really know who was who, except for Raphael because he's built like a friggin' gorilla. Yeah, of all the 4 turtles, he's the main one that has the whole different sizing. Now let's discuss the mystic powers. The mystic powers are cool, but they're also BS for the Ninja Turtles. Leonardo can use his sword to actually go to a different area. Kind of think Blink from X-Men. And yeah, Raphael, imagine him with a projection type of power. That's Raphael. He can just pretty much project a bigger version of himself to fight with. Michelangelo has a mystic power to open up portals. And Donatello is just really smart and has gadgets. And also, I didn't really realize this. It must have been something I either missed or it developed somewhere mid-series, but Donatello's shell is actually like a metal casing and actually has like rockets on it. That one I will actually give to them because in the comics, what happens is, spoiler for that, Bebop actually does kill Donatello. He smashes his shell. Donatello comes back to life, and from now on, he uses an artificial shell. The story behind that is actually very convoluted and involves Metalhead. Yeah, so at least they kind of stick to that part of the lore. But yeah, if it wasn't for the depiction of the characters, and if it wasn't for the jumping all over the place pacing and the annoying dialogue, it would actually be a great movie. It's really beautiful to the eyes. It's remarkable. The colors are bright, it's extravagant. Krang is great in this movie. Let's go ahead and use this time to cut ahead to the spoiler. And if you hear a little bit of the background, I apologize. It is Sunday. People are out and about. I try to dummy things up in between noises, but sometimes some noises leak through. So if you hear anything aside from my beautiful harmonic voice, I am so sorry. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on the spoiler, so don't go too far. If you haven't seen the movie, this is where you can just jump ahead. If you have seen the movie or you have not and you just want to be spoiled anyways, stick around. But for you non-spoiler people, cut to about here. Okay, we don't have that much time, so let's get through the spoilers before, the others come back. Yeah, so with the movie starting up with Casey Jones going back in time, that could have been good, but I just didn't like the idea that Casey Jones is from a different timeline. And it does later on talk about that his mother, Cassandra, is that current Casey Jones. Yeah, so apparently I actually briefly looked this up. Apparently in the iteration of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Cassandra Jones was once part of the Foot Clan, so she served as that series' Casey Jones. Now let's talk about the Krang. Once they're freed from their dimensional prison, they do this whole slaughtering of soldiers. They take over the Foot Clan. They transform the shape and look of the Foot Clan, and it is pretty gruesome. They go into the skin, and kind of like in the same way as the live-action Justice League movie where people are transformed into the parademons. It's kind of like that deal, but with the Krang. The humans become servants of the Krang, and we never actually see them be turned back to normal, so it's assumed that they're dead? It does kind of lag where it just bounces from one action to another with very few quiet moments in between. Leo not wanting to be, responsible with training. He just wants to relax and pretty much goof off all day. But the film is actually supposed to be him becoming the leader, I guess, because Raphael gets captured by Krang, who at the end does go back to normal, but it takes a lot of convincing. So much of the film is actually just Leo, Mikey, Donatello, joined with April, Splinter, and Casey. And their powers are taken away by the Krang, so now they're reduced to being the turtles that we love. The way Casey goes back in time is because Michelangelo used his last strength of his mystic powers, the future Michelangelo, I'm sorry. The voice work of most of the characters is actually fine, really, honestly. If given better dialogue and better script, I would still say stick with those voices. They're not really like big famous names behind the voices, except for the fact that Ben Schwartz is Leonardo. And oddly enough, and I can't believe about to say this sentence, Casey Jones is played by Haley Joel Osment. Now I understand there is no standard behavior of Casey Jones, but I like to think the real Casey Jones was portrayed by Elias Koteas from the live action films because, well, he pretty much followed the behavior of Casey Jones from the comics, because every version of Casey Jones has been wildly different. Even the 87 cartoon was different from the comic book and the movies. In the 87 cartoon, Casey Jones is just a vengeful idiot. I just don't like the idea of Casey Jones having too much of a backstory, if I'm being honest, even though the comics does have some cool, interesting stories of him after the fact. Yeah, I just like to think that Casey Jones is just a regular New Yorker that pretty much is a citizen. few airplanes. So I like to think the iteration of Casey Jones should be just as simple as a New York citizen that's had enough of the crime and takes things into his own hands. Don't have to be too creative with his backstory, but in this version, he's just as bad as the Ninja Turtles and April and Splinter, just being loud and overexcitable. The thing that makes me enjoy the movie enough to be willing to watch it again if asked by a friend and they want to see it and I'll sit down with them is that the animation style is great. It's detailed. The final fight is very all over the place, kind of reminiscent of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse because it opens up the whole dimensional portals because portals, it's the movies of today, portals. And the fight between Leonardo and Krang is actually hardcore. First it starts with Leonardo fighting Raphael, who's under the control of Krang, but it's the classic talk your brother out of being bad to the point where he refuses to fight back, making Raphael kind of fight against the mind control. Yeah, it's just, there is like little nuggets of emotional moments of everyone about to lose Leo. Leo is trying to make it back to our world from what I'm guessing is Dimension X. And Krang is right behind him in his very awesome android body, by the way. Doesn't look like the 87 cartoon android body. He doesn't look like a sex gimp at all, no. He looks like a scary looking android. But they close the portal, everything is fixed, and Krang is left alive, trapped in his dimension. They should have killed him off, but I don't know, I guess they either didn't want to kill the bad guy because it's a kid show and we don't want anyone to die, or they were hoping to make more of these. I always say what makes a good movie that's spun off from the TV show, what makes it good is if that movie has situations that lead into long-lasting effects that'll change the show. So, like, for example, I can't use Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, as an example because that movie is outside the continuity of the TV show. Nothing that happens in that movie is acknowledged. But I can use the Rugrats movie as an example because it's the introduction of Baby Dill. I can use this movie as an example of being different and changes the events of Rise of the TMNT because it introduces Casey Jones. It has to introduce a character or remove a character. Even better example, Transformers the movie not only introduces a character like Hot Rod, it has a huge imminent threat like Unicron, but it changes things where it kills off Optimus Prime and it kills off Megatron, transforming him into Galvatron, and that carries on to later seasons. With Rise of TMNT, on the other hand, doesn't really change anything except for the fact that maybe the Foot Clan has been destroyed because we do see Krang taking over the Foot Clan and taking over their bodies. And because Casey Jones can't go back to his own time, he's stuck in our time. Yeah, there's not really too much I can go to say about this. It's a fine enough movie. And I'm really being generous when I say that. The series itself is the reason why it took me so long to actually watch this movie. But I didn't hate the movie, but I suppose I'm saying too much in the spoiler. I should be saving that for our non-spoiler friends. So do me a favor and if you have your non-spoiler friend hanging out with you, you can tell them that they can come back into the room. They can join the club again. They can join the other Anthonix Maxiteers right about now. Hey there, non-spoilers, my non-spoiler friends. So yeah, I told you there's not really too much to say. It's pretty much outlined. Good guys and bad guys do bad, good guys do good, and save the day. Mix in a little Days of Future Past, and you have yourself a movie. The concept and the story outline of it is great. I don't know if I would have used Casey Jones as the character to send back in time. They could have used Fugitoid, but that would be a whole nother story that would have involved other villains, like the Triceratons. But we wanted Krang to be the bad guy. And I don't blame him. Krang does Krang shit. He wanted to bring the Technodrome to Earth to destroy it, combining universes, or combining dimension, timelines, universes. The Turtles themselves really ruin it. The characterizations of the Turtles ruin it. And they lose their powers, they get their powers. It's what you expect from a movie. It plays it simple, and that's okay. But because I am old and the original movies exist, this movie is horrible. New movies can never beat the old. Okay, I'm sort of joking, making fun of how today's reviewers are, but I'm kind of right. I'm sorry, but the first TMNT movie is actually still my favorite. Yeah, it has flaws, like you see a man's mouth inside of Donatello's mouth. Leonardo's sword is rubbery and bounces off the wall, but it's still perfect to me. It's a simple story and it was fleshed out well. This movie wanted to be extra. And the Turtles are extra. They're mutant ninja turtles. They can be extra, but it just has to have a better pacing to explain why, and not just right off the bat just have them starting off with mystic powers. What could have been a good movie for any other franchise with the story that could be applied to any other franchise? It's the characterizations and the dialogue and the screaming voices that kind of ruin it for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this movie is a 6 out of 10. I know, right? 6 out of 10. Closer to a 7 than a 5. It's not Morbius bad, but it is Ninja Turtles okay. So when I say 6 out of 10, I mean that as it's okay. There's not much more I'm gonna have to say about that. I have another review coming up, but this time it's not for Anthonix Maximus Matinee, it's for Anthonix Maximus Reviews. I have some hints in the background of what that's gonna be. Let's just say it does kind of connect to Ninja Turtles, because what I'm about to review involves a character that the Ninja Turtles are a parody of. Please like and subscribe to my channel and make sure that you ring the bell, and dun 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 dun. Turtle power.
If this isn't the poster shot, someone's getting fired.